known for three things: baseball, apple pie, and not spending money on social services. We're one of the richest nations in the world, but we don't have a lot of cool things other developed countries have, like the ability to go to the dentist without taking out a loan. But how did we get here? Let's find out in a segment called How Did We Get Here? It seems like these days no one can agree on anything. Is climate change real? Should we double mask? Does sugar belong on grits? Well, apparently all this division is caused by this thing called economic anxiety. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's a euphemism that describes a whole set of confusing beliefs. People with economic anxiety love small government, but are happy to spend billions on prisons or a border wall. They hate regulations, but they love to regulate women's bodies. The myth of economic anxiety has been around since slavery, because America loves a euphemism. That's why we call it climate change instead of everybody gonna drown if y'all don't stop playing. It's why we call Woody Allen a director instead of an alleged child molester who is also very ugly. But economic anxiety and all the things it's a euphemism for are caused by a concept called the zero-sum fallacy. That's the belief that one person's gain means another person's loss. Think of America as a pie. This should be an easy analogy to follow because at any given moment, 90% of Americans are eating pie. Basically, economically anxious people think that when anyone else gets a piece of pie, there must be less pie to go around. They believe that if everyone gets health care, insurance premiums will rise, or if we raise minimum wages, companies will lay off workers, or if we spend more money on public education, then the police won't have money for bare essentials like this. Now, to me, the benefits of spending money on social services is clear. It's obvious we should be doing it, just like it's obvious we should all watch Bridgerton alone when our husband isn't home. But many Americans don't feel that way. They get nervous about spending money on services that benefit all Americans. But that wasn't always the case. According to a recent New York Times article, in 1960, 70% of white Americans believed that the government ought to guarantee a job for anyone who wants one and ensure a minimum standard of living for everyone in the country. By 1964, that number had dropped to just 35%. Now, what could have happened between 1960 and 1964 to change the way white people felt? What could it have been? Can you guys think of anything? That's right. When white Americans thought the social safety net was for them, they were all for it. But when it started to look like black Americans might also get a piece of that pie, they changed their mind. Fortunately, very few economic systems are modeled after desserts. In fact, it's the opposite. You get more pie when you share more pie. Take minimum wage, for example. Studies show that companies that pay a living wage actually make more money. And then the people making a living wage boost the economy by spending money on things like food and clothes and whatever this is. If everyone had health care, hospitals wouldn't have to overcharge people to make up for patients who don't have health care. The surest way to lower costs is to insure more people. It's also the surest way to stop people from Googling, "Can I take my own appendix out at home?" Do you ever wonder why there's a lot less crime in rich neighborhoods? It's because crime is caused by poverty, poor education, and lack of resources. So if we spend more money on education, mental health services, and job training, crime will go down. Now, where will we get all this extra money from? Well, since we already know that investing in these things lowers crime, how about using some of the big pile of money sitting in police funding? If only there was a name for this economic concept. Oh well, more education and job training means more people making a living wage, which means more tax revenue, which means more pie, which is great because, as we've already established, Americans love pie. Now, people with economic anxiety will call these things government handouts, but they're not worried about the government handing money out. They're worried about who the government is handing money to. They only want it to go to certain people. Well, guess what? That's all of our money. It comes from the taxes we all pay, and we all deserve a piece of that pie, no matter your race, gender, sexuality, or creed, even if your creed is Apollo. In fact, the only way we will ever get rid of economic anxiety is if we stop hoarding so much damn pie. Unless, of course, economic anxiety was just racism all along. This has been How Did We Get Here?